Subscribe to the channel. What's one moment that made you go, well, I'm fucked? I was going to a horse training / equine management type school for 10 months 300 kilometers from my home. I had quit my job, gave up my apartment, spent $2,000 on horse equipment, bought a horse that needed to be picked up ASAP, etc etc. School started on Monday. Friday afternoon I get a voicemail saying that they didn't get enough enrollment and school is cancelled till next year. That was a mess. Got sideswiped going 75 miles per hour on a freeway on the front end by a jackass who noticed at the last second they were in the exit only lane. Sent my car across all 5 lanes as I was coming up to the median head on. I thought I'm fucked. Knew I was going through it to oncoming traffic going 70 miles per hour. Last second I got hit by SUV that spun me around, putting my car facing the correct way of traffic. Head smash, driver side window, somehow lost my left shoe through that window and my phone that was in center cup holder. Went to hospital, got MRI x-rays. Walked away with abrasion on neck from seatbelt, cut on my forehead from window, and sore muscles. The car was totaled. Driver side rear wheel was gone along with the entire trunk. If the SUV hit me a second sooner would have smashed my head into its grill. Second later would have missed me and I would have gone over the median into oncoming traffic. Was going about 50 miles per hour, looked at my motorcycle gauges, then looked up and saw 3 deer crossing the road. Literally said here we go, right before I impacted with the third one. Walking alone to a friend's when I was 17 on November 5th in the dark and hearing the running footsteps of the weird guy that I just caught staring at me from the graveyard. I knew then I was in serious trouble. He'd obviously been waiting for a girl alone and he timed it, so I had to walk past an alleyway to a scrubland. No houses for 100 yards either way. However, because I'd clocked him peeping out of the graveyard and crossing the road staring at me, I was able to cross my arms right across my chest as he grabbed at me, so he couldn't pull me off balance or get a grip to pull me in. It gave me about 30 to 40 seconds to scream my shitting head off in between grabbing until one of 3 passing cars realized something was up and slowed down. He ran. Police called. Helicopter. They got him double backing and hiding in the graveyard again. He'd got previous for rape. Went away for a year for attempted kidnap. A few years ago I bought a butterfly knife, not for self-defense or anything. I just wanted to do cool tricks that I saw the spider in TF2. Anyway, the first thing I did, without looking up on YouTube on how to do it, was the Zen rollover. Basically you make the butterfly knife swing with momentum, let it go for a second and catch it. Just search it on it. As I tried to make it swing, I failed to catch it, and for some reason, my initial instinct was to catch it with my foot. The split second that I realized what I was doing, I thought to myself I'm fucked. It barely missed my foot and I only got a shallow cut on my foot. On the bright side, I can do a couple of tricks with my butterfly knife now. Greater than sign. My first year in marching band I was a rookie in front ensemble, the huge xylophones. For anyone who doesn't know, it was senior night and I was helping roll the vibraphone out near the field because it was about to be halftime. Then I noticed a teacher I had the previous year and turned around and greeted her. Then I looked back and the vibraphone falls down off of its stand with the notes falling off as well. In front of everyone in the stands, the football players, and my parents. I knew for a fact my ass was gonna get handed to me by the directors. I was already getting yelled at by the kid I was helping push it. Nearly everyone in the band was calling me dumb or retarded, and I think I even heard someone say I should have been kicked out. Luckily the directors didn't get onto me. So your results are quite uncertain. We have done a scanner, an echography, a CTR scan and a blood test. We are unsure what is the cause of the pain in your abdomen. It might be an appendix inflammation, so you will have to stay here. We will get you a room and inform you when the surgical operation will happen. They got my appendix out. They got some samples of some liquids that weren't supposed to be there. They run some tests to see if it was the appendix and it wasn't. They also run some tests on that liquid to see if it was tuberculosis, and it was also negative. End of the story. My pain went away, also my appendix. Had to go to the hospital and visit some experts. They did not say anything special. I also had to do some allergic tests and they were all negative. I had a small skin reaction to some of the stuff they put in me when I was asleep. Sitting on a couch at a party, outside, listening to a story a mate was telling, then suddenly having an urge to vomit. Try to get up, realize I'm fucked, should have realized well before this point, and just projectile vomit over the side of the couch. I then get carried to a reclinable deck chair and blackout. I wake up to people taking it and turn slapping me. Unfortunately, the person and slap that woke me up and the person that came up after were not the same person. I gave him a good right hook and knocked him flat. He was good about it, got up and said, well, I guess we deserve that, and we laughed about it. Recently found out he was telling them to stop and coming over to make sure I was all goods and see if I needed water. Felt really bad about that, haha. I stared with annoyance, fear, and time anger at the 37 estimates that were neatly arranged on paper racks on my desk. They were arranged by the date the customer had come in for an inspection, but it was irrelevant. I had, thanks to overzealous scheduling on the part of our receptionists at the body shop, been given appointment after appointment for the last 14 days. Not an hour of catch-up time in 2 weeks, even on the weekends. Lunch was an afterthought. I had been eating at my desk, not like it helped. Even driving to a fast food joint didn't matter at that place. The receptionist would rope you back, and the manager would scold you, even though all the techs and the other estimators were perfectly content buying lunch at the fast food joints nearby. The manager of the shop was such an asshole about it. I had to quote our state's law in our morning meeting, and everybody laughed and told me to go and find another job if I was going to be so lazy, because I was the college kid who hadn't spent his entire life working in a shop. That was just one more stomp on my back. From the day I had come in, they had refused to show me how to help contribute to the shop. Things like using their billing system, closing out customer tickets, all a mystery until somebody would roll their eyes annoyingly and show me. Then there would be retaliation. Somehow it would come. So I was late on all these estimates. The insurance companies were calling daily about them, and the boss was micromanaging everybody with a particular obsession with me. My attempts to organize and track everything were scolded, and I argued with my boss over an Excel spreadsheet. He wanted me to use his system, even though the other 3 were using their own system in tandem that was different. I was sick to death of it. I was going to get chewed out tomorrow. The only thing that I could do at this point, when it was 7:30, was stay until 10 PM, which I couldn't, because I lacked the ability to close the shop properly. I could hastily do the estimates, but that was even worse. There was no hiding mistakes around there, and I couldn't write a bad estimate for people. I was left staring at 37 folders. Also, I could choose what I was going to get yelled at. I had a panic attack. I could not assess the damages from the photos. Focusing was a lost cause. My leg began to hurt. I was getting a headache. I had slept poorly for the last 3 days, each day waking up in a dreadful panic. The commute filled with fantasies of wanderlust, traveling into the desert or the woods for 2 weeks with no cell phone or technology or estimates or anything, all just to sit with nature and relax. Hell, even going to Florida and sitting on the beach seemed like a fantasy. I hadn't had a vacation since I started. I was fucked. So I stood up from my dilapidated, dust-ridden office chair, said fuck this shit. I'm done, you fucking assholes. I walked out. I was in a rage, but nobody would hear it. I was alone in the office. I went to the dollar store, bought myself envelopes, typed up a resignation letter, and quit by tossing my keys and the letter in the mail slot. It was 10:30 PM when I returned to the shop. I was sitting at a nearby gas station, debating whether or not to actually go through with it. No. I screamed to myself in my car. Enough was enough. I'm a human being. I deserve to live a decent life, not worrying about some stupid bonus. I was not going to have any more sleepless nights over some entitled asshole's BMW, or some repeat customer that the manager liked for some reason. I was tired of watching my coworkers give catcalls to women they found attractive, and I was tired of their homophobic remarks anytime anyone who looked like a gay person, a lesbian couple, or a transgender person came in. I was not giving those clones a 2-week notice, nor did I feel like they were entitled to an explanation of why I was leaving them with the mess they had created. I had asked multiple times for a day off the schedule to just catch up, and it was never ever given. They would reap what they've sowed, because the receptionists had us booked like that for 2 months straight, and they seemed more than happy to keep that going for another 6 if people called in. I reported all of them to ours at the body shop's corporate office. It didn't matter, most of them still had their jobs. When I checked their Google reviews a month ago, while sitting and chatting, smoking the hookah with friends, the same names were being mentioned. I was curious, they must have thought it was all lies. Now I'm happy, I don't care. I have a better job, and I make more than those estimators. Once I get my masters, I'll make more than the shop manager. I left, my life is richer. Those people always will be stuck on the same island. Having my power shut off. I was sitting at home on my day off when I saw the power company's truck drive down the alley, which I thought was odd because it is generally just used for people who live near it, or the garbage truck. Not even 2 minutes later my power gets shut off. First order of business is to call them to see what is up. I'm told that we are almost $600 in unpaid power bills. I do not like yelling at people on the phone, because it isn't their fault in the slightest, but I did let out a very loud what when I was told that, due to some pretty annoying circumstances, I was living at home, and my mom had been looking to move out of state to be closer to her mother. She had the idea that we could rent the house from her where I would get the bottom half of the house and my brother would get the top half of the house. But we didn't want to pay the reconnect fees that would come with switching the bills into our names, because we didn't have a whole lot of extra money at the time. So my brother and I would send her money to pay the bills every month that were still in her name, power, gas, and a mortgage. We would see the pictures of the bills, so we know we weren't being lied to about the amounts, so we had no reason to believe anything was not getting paid. After a few months of her not liking paying bills for 2 houses, my mom gave us the online account info so we could just pay it ourselves, something we had suggested from the start. The mini freak out about the bills happened in like October or November, and the power getting shut off happened in March, right when it was legal for them to shut it off. I paid the $600 owed so I could have power and went to go look at the gas bill to see if any fuckery had happened there. Yup, gas bill was also around $600 behind. $350 of that was from before my mother had moved out. We ended up looking through all of the months where she was paying the bills, and she did pay them, just not in full in the slightest. There was a month where she paid less than $1 toward my power bill, but for my brother, she paid nearly $20. Through some other shenanigans, we also found out she never once paid the mortgage for that house after she had moved out either, so the house was going to be foreclosed on within a few months of the power getting shut off. I did the only thing that I could. After having all of my savings drained, I stopped paying rent to save up and move out. I haven't willingly talked to my mother in almost 3 years, and I don't intend to change that. In my city there's a large, really steep hill that ends at a huge intersection. One day I decide to go for a bike ride after not going for a few weeks. A few blocks into the ride I notice that my bike brakes don't work, probably rusted or something. Oh well, not a big deal, I can just brake by dragging my feet on the ground. And that's true for the most part. Going around the city I just brake with my feet and don't even think about it. I completely forget about the whole thing. Then I get to the hilly part of my town. After biking up a really steep hill, I finally crest it and start sailing down the other end. Like anyone that's ever biked, it's always a thrill to coast down a hill and just zoom down without pedaling. So I get zooming faster and faster. Like I said, this hill is ridiculously long/steep, so I'm soon going at basically the maximum speed you can go on a bike. Oh, and there's a huge busy intersection up ahead, and it's a red light. Oh, and I just remembered I don't have any brakes. I ended up having to decide if I wanted to fly into a active intersection at 20 miles per hour, or if I wanted to purposefully crash into a ditch at 20 miles per hour. I choose the latter, and broke for ribs. The worst part was the 5 to 10 seconds beforehand. I knew what I had to do, and I knew it would be really fucking painful. Just counting down the seconds before I intentionally crashed, and the inevitable pain that would follow. When I was 15 I smoked and sold weed. My parents and I drove to my grandparents'. I'm chilling in the living room looking YouTube and then my dad shouts to me from the kitchen. "Dan, come here." I came and then I saw a folded paper on the desk. He asked me what this is. I said, "I don't know, a folded paper?" And then he opens it. Some small crumbs of weed. I felt like my heart exploded. Then he says he found it in my jacket. When I was a kid, most of our close family was going to Six Flags. We took two cars, my dad's and my uncle's. Mom was navigating, and as I was talking to her, which was distracting, she accidentally told my dad to take the wrong exit. My uncle followed, and my dad was cussing his head off. He just stopped in the ramp, and my uncle ran into the back of his truck. He turned back and looked at me like Anakin Skywalker would have looked at a youngling. My friends came running up to me and said, "The cops are here." We dropped the weed on the pavement and ran. That's the exact opposite of what they should have done. We were at the beach, and I hate running, so I decided it would be better if I dug a hole in the sand and buried myself behind the dunes. I waited quietly and counted the number of times the flashlight beam passed over my head. It was 8. I was totally going to get away with it. I'm so damn good at hiding. And then I realized that the car my friends had been in was registered in my name. Even if the cops didn't find me, they'd be looking for me, so I crawled out and surrendered. It ended better for me than it did for my friends, but we were all still fucked over a little bit of weed. Subscribe. Thanks for watching UpGoat Reddit. Try like and subscribe button if it's